Fit 22. Who should subscribe? Yeah, that's you.
Hey, it's Huck. And I guess I should start this by admitting that I really don't watch a lot of television. And it's not for a lack of trying. I mean, I started watching episodes of Breaking Bad, mainly because I've liked Bryan Cranston, well, ever since he was in Malcolm in the Middle. But frankly, the series bores me. And I can't sympathize with any character who's so proud and obsessed with his skill at making something so grotesquely harmful to others. And the writing isn't all that clever. I mean, clever would be naming the character Oppenheimer or maybe David or Richard Koch. And then there's the whole Walking Dead phenomenon. It took me less than an episode to realize that there are probably, I don't know, an infinite number of ways to crush, pierce, or slice a zombie head. And there's little likelihood I'll ever need an hour's training each week to learn them all. Let's face it, television today has hundreds of channels, yet it's one reality show, cop drama, or poorly written comedy series after the other. I mean, if you've seen one NCIS episode, you've seen every Law and Order. If you've survived watching Survivor, The Great Race is not so great. And whenever I root for the voice or idol of my choice, they're eliminated in short order, thankfully saving me the burden of sitting through their overwrought, melodramatic manipulation of every has-been wannabe talent on the planet. Admit it, the whole talent show genre peaked at Susan Boyle. And some shows just wear on you. I mean, I really liked Pawn Stars for a while, but somehow the more I see, the less I really like these guys. These guys have more treasures in their home and garage than Jay Leno and Donald Trump combined. And they're still screwing folks out of more than a half of the value of the items they bring in, just so they can live even higher on the hog. I bet every one of them voted for Romney. Once in a while I watch Storage Wars, but now they've got Storage Wars New York and Storage Wars Texas. There's Pawn Stars Deep South and Ghetto Pond in Detroit. I mean, can't anyone come up with a fucking original idea anymore? So yeah, I'm a little cynical about TV these days. And so it is shocking, fucking shocking, I tell you, that I've recently found 3 shows worth tuning into each week. Which for me qualifies as a genuine breakthrough of sorts, which means I probably won't go in and see the therapist this week. 2 of those shows are the History Channel's Vikings and A&E's new Bates Motel series. Vikings because, well, it's fun to watch how Republicans lived in the 15th century. You know, stealing the riches of the world and hoarding it for themselves. But it's exceptionally well scripted and produced. I mean, the location filming is amazing. And it's fun to root for one bad guy who shares his wife with a priest and values combat and stolen treasure as the pinnacle of life's success over an even more ruthless guy who kills kids to guard his buried treasure in the afterlife and kills old people apparently because they're just too damn slow to get out of the way. And then there's Bates Motel, the new series on A&E. Now again, normally, this isn't something I would watch, not being a fan of most horror or serial killer forms of entertainment. But this particular show is based on one of the true masters of psychological thrillers, Alfred Hitchcock, and one of his great flicks. And it stars Freddie Highmore, the now teenage actor who showed such skill as a kid in movies like Neverland, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Spiderwick Chronicles, and August Rush. Okay, not much skill with the guitar on that one. So far, just a few episodes into the series, Bates Motel has already impressed me with its foreshadowing of just how young Freddie, or young Norman Bates, becomes the erotically obsessed, dead mother-worshipping, sociopathic killer later revealed in Hitchcock's thriller Psycho. And clearly, his obsessive, smothering, ruthlessly conniving mom who's equally at ease stabbing people in the chest and dumping their bodies in the lake as she is sipping coffee while flirting with a police deputy, has a lot to do with it. I mean, we're talking about a mom who would rather strip for her son than for the handsome police deputy. Well, recently we found out that this little booklet of hand-drawn, erratically charged drawings young Norman found while tearing up some blood-soaked carpeting was an actual diary of sorts. Norman's friend, Emma, a young girl who clearly is doomed to die young, one way or another, explains this to him by grabbing the diary from its hidden location in his bedroom. And this is helpful information for you younger viewers out there, and should serve as a lesson to use some fucking imagination when you're hiding your porn or drugs or whatever it is you keep stashed in your room. The very first place they always look is between the mattress and the box springs, and just as I did when my brother found my hidden Playboy stashed under my mattress one day long ago, Norman instinctively reaches out to grab back his secret obsession from Emma when she discovers it. But unlike me, who got pounded on by my older brother, who's 2 times my size, and who used the situation to publicly humiliate his little brother for weeks, Emma downplays the discovery by suggesting she peruses her friend's erotica as a personal hobby, and uses the material to lead young Norman to a wooded area just outside of town where clearly company is not welcome. And as we learned earlier in the same episode, this is not your typical small town, since everyone here works at a diner or some logging outfit, but lives in like $1 million homes. And it's not every sleepy little town that features folks set aflame and hanging from a tree in the center of town, while the police politely direct traffic around the scene, making no attempt whatsoever to douse the flames. What's not to like about this show? But my favorite show, and I'm guessing your favorite too, is Game of Thrones. Being a cheap bastard who can't afford HBO, I came upon this series at work, where Mr. Big Buck's owner can afford HBO. And if you know his DirecTV account number and his email address, as I do, you can watch the entire series on any home computer or laptop. Joy! Now I should add that I kind of got lucky this Christmas, and I purchased a used Kindle on eBay really cheap. Lesson number 2 for you kids out there: if you have your eyes on any electronic gadget on eBay or anywhere else for that matter, wait and buy it one day after Christmas, because one day after Christmas the prices drop faster than zombies at a gun show. And lo and behold, along with a host of other books already on the device, this particular Kindle came already preloaded with all 5 books of A Song of Ice and Fire written to date. Apparently the author of the series has at least 2 more books in the series planned. So I'm not sure where they plan to end this Game of Thrones when the HB series is all said and done, but I figure it's likely to end when the current crop of contenders for the throne reach some sort of resolve. And while I generally favor reading the book before seeing the movie, in this particular case, I'm going to force myself to stay well back of where the series takes us. Because, well, the author has already pissed me off big time by allowing Ned Stark to die early in the series. And so, it's just a matter of time, I figure, before the other shoes drop on every other possible just outcome I have hopes of in the series. So I'd rather not suffer them any earlier than necessary. You see, from the start, I've imagined who the ultimate hero and king is likely to be. And I've got any number of good, just, sound reasons for my choices. You could make a very good argument for the blonde bitch with the dragons, who I'd name but I can't pronounce, let alone spell it, so let's just call her Danny. And you could certainly make an argument for Robb, the eldest son of Ned Stark, or my favorite character in the series, Tyrion Lannister, the midget with an attitude. Peter Dinklage is just a fantastic actor, and the show is worth watching just to hear him trade insults with those all around him. Episode 1 of Season 3 did not disappoint, as he finally gets an audience with his ungrateful father, despite clearly devising the strategy that saved his city from ruin before his father came onto the scene. But instead of gratitude, Tyrion is admonished for having the audacity, basically, to be born. And while his father's words probably comes as no surprise to Tyrion, we know he is just biding his time, plotting his sweet revenge on the motherfucker the moment the time is right. It's just like when he asked as his rightful inheritance the seat of the House of Lannister located at Casterly Rock. That was just a ploy. That's the last place Tyrion wants to be. Some godforsaken fortress in the westernmost outback of the civilized world. What he really wants is to be in, or at least near, the seat of power in King's Landing. Now, I got to admit, I nearly panicked at the end of episode 9, season 2, when Tyrion fell in battle and I had to wait an entire week to see if he was still alive. I mean, I haven't longed for an upcoming episode of television that much since J.R. Ewing was shot. Come to think of it, I was probably the only person who didn't give a fuck who shot J.R. So, maybe ever. But I have 2 other favorites for the ultimate crown of the 7 kingdoms. But alas, I fear they are very unlikely to live through the series. Because I'm Huck. And just like I'll never win the lottery, or marry the beautiful princess, or get the chance to live in a climate that at least occasionally exposes the sun 2 days in a row, nothing I want ever happens. Ever. Which is why I just know something terrible is likely to happen to the 2 characters I'm thinking of. One is Ned Stark's youngest daughter, Arya. Now, first, she's a girl. And just like America, apparently being born female in the 7 kingdoms rules out any possibility of acquiring any real power. I'm actually looking forward to her older sister's death, which I sense is likely to come before too much longer. I mean, anyone who would even pretend to want to be with that spawn of Satan, Joffrey, deserves to die a horrible death, and I, for one, am looking forward to it. And the other, who would seem to me an obvious choice, is Ned Stark's younger son, Bran. The boy unable to walk after being pushed from a tower by the sinister Jaime Lannister. I was hoping against hope that that Amazon warrior woman would have beheaded Jaime Lannister by now. But I guess this whole plot to trade Sansa for Jaime has got to run its course a few more episodes. As for the boy Bran, I base my desire to see him kinged on the fact that in his one brief stand-in as Lord of Winterfell, while his family was all off in King's Landing there early in the series, well, Bran showed this mature capacity for wisdom and mercy and justice while hearing his people's concerns. But I base my bias towards him also because, as the one crippled kid in the show, he kind of reminds me of the boy on crutches, in the Pied Piper of Hamelin, who's too slow to keep up with the other kids, so the Piper leads all the rest of the village into the mountain where all the kids are trapped, except for him. And in the end, it's always the crippled kid whose misfortune seems to work in his favor. But in the final analysis, the story is titled Song of Fire and Ice. I'm no genius, but Ice was the name of the legendary sword owned by Ned Stark. And fire seems best represented here by Dany and her dragons, so I'm guessing it's going to come down somehow between these two. And maybe it will end with them joining forces against all of their other enemies. Your guess is as good as mine. But didn't you just know somehow it was going to involve those fucking zombies? Son of of a bitch. They're everywhere. Anyway, I'm Huck. We'll talk about this later when it clears up a bit.
Huck Fit 22. Who should subscribe? Yeah, that's you.
What? You still here? Well, you know, come to think of it, that's good. Because I actually have a bone or two to pick with you. For you kids out there, that's 3 words. Bone or two, not boner. So wipe the damn smirk off your face. I just uploaded 10 of my own original songs just this week. And I've compiled them in a way that you can easily go from one song to the other by just clicking with your mouse on any song you choose. Now the big news here is that while I've uploaded 8 of these songs before in actual music videos, I included 2 bonus tracks. These are original songs you've never heard before.
I met her at the races, I chose her with my style. Of all those pretty faces, she's the girl I love to wild. Pretty baby, I can't love you anymore. Cause if I catch up with your daddy, he's gonna knock me on the floor. I can still feel her warmness, even though she's gone. I know that she still lives. And I can still remember school day mornings.
And the bigger news is that you can buy all 10 of these songs if you go to Google Play, and of course if you're not as cheap as old Huck here. If a couple of you folks out there do that, I might even be able to afford HBO this year. So do me a favor, will ya? Check those out. Here's a link to the first song. Thanks a lot. See you later.